Hey guys, this is Chris. Update on my 2004 Squire bullet build. Some of you have said that you have attempted to do this and it didn't turn out the way that mine has. So I'm going to show you how I did this and what you need. First of all, you're going to need patience. If you don't have patience, don't even attempt it. Second of all, having adequate spacing. I'm located in a warehouse right now where I have plenty of room and it's not outdoors. The reason I don't do outdoors is because of debris or whatever flying down, especially if you live in an area with trees. It's not a good idea. And also moisture and anything like that can affect the wood on the guitar. The wood on my body is basswood. I wanted to start simple, something cheap, to see how it goes. Second thing you're going to need, or third I should say, is you're going to need a heat gun. This is basically a super powered blow dryer. No, a blow dryer will not work. You will need a thin, flexible metal putty knife. Don't get the solid ones, or you're gonna scratch into the wood. As you're applying the heat gun over the paint, you want to kind of flex the knife. Don't push in too hard. The heat's going to bubble up the paint, and when it bubbles up the paint, just keep the heat gun in one hand and the putty knife in the other, and just move. Don't stop and hold the heat gun for a long period of time, because you'll burn the wood. And another thing you're going to need is, when you get the paint all stripped down, you'll need a electric hand sander, or is what you call a DA sander. And you will need 120 sandpaper is what I use. Don't use anything lower than that. The lower the number is, the thicker the grit. So you can see I use a 120. All of this stuff you should be able to get at your local hardware store, your Lowe's, Home Depot, whichever, Harbor Freight if you have that. Another thing is having a workbench that doesn't have anything underneath, and the reason why is because I use these clamps to hold my guitar down onto the table as I am applying my heat and stuff. Make sure it's got the little rubber protectors here. You're going to scuff it up. That will keep it still when you're trying to scrape it, and it won't be moving all over the place, scratching on the table. So I use 2 clamps, and of course you got to remove all the hardware, the neck, pickups and everything before you do this, the strap locks. Also, another thing I did is I rigged this little stand up to hold the guitar, so it's not on here while I'm staining, because it will stick, it will get trash in it, and you'll have to sand the thing over and start it over. Sand and stain is a lot harder than doing paint. You cannot use a heat gun to take this off. But seeing how this is my first build, and I've been thinking about this nonstop, I think a better way to do this would actually make a false neck. A scrap of wood, and screw it into your neck where the holes are. Don't make new holes. You can use these same screws that came in the neck, and then you can get something similar like this, and then use your clamps to hold it vertical. I wish I would have done that, but I didn't think of it. I was too excited and just kind of rushed it. The stain that I used, you can use any color you want, but I use Minwax. This is the only stain we use. I work construction and remodel. This is the stain that we use when we apply. I'm using dark walnut. Applying this stain, you need these gloves, because stain is hard to get out of your skin. You can do it without it. you're just going to have trouble getting it off. You take like 4 showers to get it off. You will need a rag, and you can see that only half of it is wet from the stain. I dip the rag in, and when I'm applying this, I start from the end and work my way straight down. Don't stop. Dip back in here, straight down. Dip back in there about 3 runs, and then I kind of wipe off the stain and I smooth it out. If you don't do this the way that I'm saying, you're going to have puddles throughout the middle of the guitar, and it's just going to look crazy. But yes, do that the whole way around. And then when you do the edge, make sure that you take a dry rag, because it's going to run a little bit and it's going to get underneath. Make sure you wipe that so that buildup doesn't stay underneath. It'll leave a buildup, ridge, and it'll look kind of bad. And as for, I personally, when I got my guitar, the neck had lost its shine, and it was awfully dirty, so dirty that I couldn't clean it with cleaner. So I had to sand my neck down. And what you want to do is, when you sand these down and polyurethane these, you need to tape off that fretboard. Tape it all off. Don't let any of it show. The edge is very important. Make sure you tape that edge off. You can see that I've got it pretty well prepped. I've done a lot of paint. I've done a lot of stain in the last 5 years. And you can see this side I've not applied polyurethane to, so it has no shine to it. We flip it over. You can see how it's shining. So I had to sand this down. Don't sand too hard over the logo. You try to wipe that down and lightly sand it. And again, use the 120 sandpaper or 220. Do not use anything lower than that, or you will tear into the wood. So, right now, this is what it looks like, dark walnut with 2 coats. When you apply your first coat, you have to let it sit. I let mine sit, I think it was 3 or 4 hours before I applied my second coat. For my last coat, I'm going to wait for it to completely dry and it's still tacky. Heat, not too much heat, just, heat like off a shop light or something will help it dry. Don't put a fan on it, because if anything blows in front of that fan, it's going to blow it straight into your stain and it will stick, and if you have to take it out, you'll mess it up and have to do it all over. So yeah, this is 2 coats so far. Let me get some light over here. It looks good now, but I want it just a little bit darker. In the picture, it's a little bit lighter than it looks on the camera. Another thing you will need, I use this for my job, respirator. The fumes from the paint and the heat gun is pretty strong, and it stinks really bad. These you can get paint store, hardware store. If you don't have one and you can't afford it, that's fine. You can get a regular dust mask. It's still going to be stout. You'll still be able to smell it. For the clear coat that I'm going to use, that I have not yet used, but I have used on my neck, make sure that you pay attention to the can. There is so many different stains, so many different polyurethanes, and if you don't pay attention, you can end up destroying your wood on your body and your neck. I use this. It's a clear gloss, not the semi. And another thing, you need to make sure that it is, they have water based and then they have this chemical based. The chemical base will last longer. I don't know if you see it, caution combustible, flames, vapor, harmful, whatever. Make sure it's this kind and not the water base. This stuff here takes about 2 to 3 hours to dry. Your first application, you do not use a rag on this. Use a brush. You can use a latex brush. Go to Sherwin-Williams and get a good one. Don't get a cheap one because it'll leave the bristles into the wood as you drag in the polyurethane. After your first coat and it dries, it's got a nice shine, but you can run your hand across it and you can feel it's kind of rough and got these bubbles. So what you need to do is use 220 fine grit sandpaper. Lightly, do not use much force. Lightly sand that off, and you're going to apply another coat. This coat's going to be a little bit smoother. After that second coat, it should be smooth, and if it's not, use a 220 and lightly sand it again, and it should be good to go. And that's the same application process with the guitar body. Once you apply your coat of polyurethane, like I said, standing it vertical would have been a better idea. I just didn't think of it at the time. Once you apply it to both sides, make sure don't do one side at a time because it will not be consistent. My next build will be a lot more consistent now that I've got it figured out. Once you run that first coat of polyurethane, let it sit for about 2 or 3 hours. Come back on 220, lightly sand it. Don't be too hard on it. You're going to dig into the sand. And make sure that it is not tacky. Make sure that it is dry. And then you'll wipe it off with a rag or something. Again, it has to be dry. You're going to smear it if it's not. Then you after you sand that first layer of polyurethane off, you wipe it off gently with a rag. Apply your second coat all over the whole body, and then you let it sit. And then it should all be done. Then you can put your neck back on. I'm actually upgrading my pickups, so my stock pickups will not be going in there. My stock pickups will be a part of another project I plan on making I don't know if you've heard like a gas can guitar or whatever. I'm going to make it out of a bigger one of these, and I'm going to cut a circle out, and I'm going to put one of those stock bullet pickups in there, and I'm going to build me a neck and run my port through the side, and I'm going to have me a little blues guitar. That one is going to be a little bit more complicated than this, but if there's anything I may have missed, any questions you guys might have, feel free to ask me. Like I said, this is my first build, so we'll see how it goes, but I've done a lot of woodwork, I've done a lot of stain, polyurethane, paint removal. Yeah. If this video inspires you, remember patience. If you don't have it, don't even bother. It takes a lot of time. I've got this Thursday. It's still not ready to be finished, and this is Sunday. Anyways, let me know what you guys think, and look forward from hearing from you.